Hello, everyone. It's a real delight to be here today. As you just heard, I just had my new book published on surrogacy, and it's very rare for a researcher to be able to meet people and be in such a setting in which you're able to interact and talk with your, about your research with people other than academics, other than other researchers, and other than the students in your classes. Okay, perfect. And so I'm just really thrilled to be here today and to be sharing this time with you. So I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. We have a wonderful panel here of parents and surrogates. So I guess I'll go just right down the line. So our first panelist is Michael Wetson. Michael and his husband Sean welcomed their twins, Olivia and Sawyer, via gestational surrogacy in 2013. And they spent very busy days, I'm sure, raising them in Grapevine, which is just close to here. Our next panelist is Jessica Dollar. And Jessica is a mother of 3 from Dallas, and she is a gestational surrogate who carried Olivia and Sawyer for Michael and Sean. So it's just delightful. I have to clap my hands because I'm so excited. I had a couple of these in my book, but it's just wonderful to have a surrogate and the parent pair here to talk with us today. So I'm really excited about that. Our next panelist is Peter Escobar Verhoeven. Peter and his husband, Dr. Julian Escobar, welcomed their twins, Paloma Sofia and Valentino, absolutely love those names, via gestational surrogacy in 2014. Our next panelist is Danielle Pavlak, and Danielle is a stay-at-home mom to 4 children. She has 6-year-old triplets and a 4-year-old single boy, so I'm sure she spends very busy days as well. And she dealt with fertility problems herself. She is also a 2-time gestational surrogate who delivered girl-boy twins for Danielle and Ricardo Santiago on May 4th, 2016. And our last panelist is Jessica Schultz. And Jessica has 5 children of her own, so again, very busy days, I'm sure, and has completed 2 journeys as a gestational surrogate. So in 2012, she delivered twins into the arms of their father, and then in 2014, she helped the same father welcome his 3rd child into the world. So how we'd like to structure this today is first, if we could, I've given a very brief introduction of each of our panelists, but perhaps if we could go down the line and everyone could tell just a little bit about themselves and their surrogacy journey, and then I'll ask some questions of them, and then we'll have some time for you to ask questions as well. Does that sound good? Okay, great. Would you like to kick us off, Michael?
Do I need the microphone? Do I need the microphone? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm Michael Wetson, and I guess the first thing to say is my name before the children was Michael Wetter. My husband, Sean, is back there with Olivia and Sawyer in the back row. His name was Sean. And we, right before the kids were born, we changed our name to the first half of my name and the last half of his and made it Wetson. We made the decision when we were on our baby moon coming in Mexico, coming back through customs, and the guy tried to separate us into separate lines, and we just decided we weren't going to do that, and with the last name was Wetter, there was nothing hyphenated that would be okay. So we chose Wetson, which is what most of our friends called us anyway, was the Wetsons. So I will also say that the decision to change our last name was as hard or harder than the decision that we were ready to have kids, because men don't give up our names. And so we had to explain. So our families kind of got used to the fact that we were having kids, and then when we sprung up that we were changing our names, that was tough as well. Our surrogacy journey, we decided to do surrogacy because we had some friends who had gone through it, and those same friends had also gone through years of having foster kids that were taken away from them, and we decided in our 40s that we couldn't wait 10 years to finally have a family, and it's the best thing we've done. It's amazing. Our life changed in ways that I just never expected. I appreciate what my parents did so much more, and the community, all of our friends have just kind of taken it in stride, and now the lessons come, and so the party's a little bit earlier and a little bit crazier now that they're walking. It's a lot more. It's been absolutely amazing.
Hi, I'm Jessica. Let's see, my surrogacy journey. I actually helped the Watsons. They were my second surrogacy. And I guess more than anything, I know everyone has a different path they take to deciding to become a gestational surrogate. For myself, I was a very young mother. I had my first when I was 20 years old, and I was living in Alaska, really far away from all of my family. And there were two women that I think the entire time, 6 years that I knew them, they've been trying to have their own family, but they kind of stepped in and helped me find my feet, so to speak, with my own son. And I had it in my head that I wanted to try to offer to carry for them initially. And things didn't really work out. My husband came home from Iraq, and I ended up having my second child, and then we came back home to Dallas. But it just kind of stayed in my heart for a couple of years afterwards. And I decided if I was going to do this, then I wanted to do it the safest way I could think to do it. So I found a very reputable agency, Surrogacy, and they kind of helped me take that step. And you go through a process of making sure that you are physically and emotionally and psychically ready for the journey. And they helped me meet my first family, and I thought this was wonderful. I had boy-girl twins then also, Isabella and Andrew. After they were born, I thought this was great. There were two women that I wanted to help. I've had these two babies, I'm done. And I had my third child, and he was about a year old and weaning when I just had it again very strongly in my heart. I said it feels like a calling. I knew I wanted to do it again, but I should do it again. I wasn't sure if I could, but I went back to the people that I trusted at Simple Surrogacy, and they had a couple in mind immediately for me. And I met Michael and Sean actually at a dog park, which is about perfect. They met my family, I met their little family with their dogs, very sweet, and I just knew this is it. These are exactly the people I was meant to help bring their family into the world, and it's been wonderful. We had 10 months together that were fantastic. We stay in touch on Facebook. I love those little babies, break them every night, just like I do when I go on my Andrew and my breakfast. That's it for me.
Hi, my name is Peter The journey, well, it started like I think 6 years ago that Julie and I started for the first time talking about potentially creating a family, wanting to have kids. And we started talking, you know, and for us it was very important to have these conversations and make sure that not only emotionally but also financially or socially or different aspects in your life that we were totally ready, and that we have to move and to buy a new house. We live in a very small space. So all those things combined took a while for us to make that final step. And yeah, the same story is like it's just one of the best and most incredible things that ever happened to us. We met our surrogate through France, and it was like, it's weird. It was like you meet there for the first time, and her husband was there also. But this was like the first date. It's like, you know, like you don't really know how it is. Like, oh, are you gonna carry our babies? And there has to be like this connection. And what if I don't like her, or she doesn't like us, or it's truly a date, you know? And you meet up for like a couple hours and everything, little things, like a family, 3 kids, and then in the end, when Julie and I drove home, we got a text message that I would be so happy to care for you guys. And the same feeling. It was like this instant connection that I think is very important. It was important for me because I wanted to be there every appointment when she went. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be as involved as possible. I wanted to be there when the sonograms were done. And truly be a team, you know. It was a team effort, you know. For us, it was very important, not just like, okay, see you next 9 months, and get my kid, but truly be there as a team and create this special bonding for 9 months. And she delivered in hospital. The kids were in the NICU for a month. And then, you know, we took them home, and it's just incredible, you know. It's just like, yeah, I'm a homestay dad, I quit my job, and started another job basically 24/7, but it's the best job in the world, and it's just the most gratification. You get the most gratification out of this entire thing, and having your own family is undescribable. Like today's Father's Day, and I had to write a card. I'm like, I don't even know what to write in words because it's so overwhelming what to write. It's like there's so much love and hope. So that's my little story.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Danielle, and as I was saying, is that me and my husband had struggled with infertility ourselves, and we were blessed with triplets first time, and then we were blessed with, as we call our bonus baby, a couple years later. And so that's what led us to surrogacy, is we knew at one point in time we had a reproductive endocrinologist tell us is that we possibly would not be able to have children of our own. So by knowing that that's what led us, is because we feel that everybody should be a parent, everybody should be woken up at 2:30 in the morning and then have a baby that doesn't want to go back to sleep. So I started doing research of surrogacy, and I too have had 2 journeys through simple surrogacy. And in 2014, I delivered twin boys for a single dad from New York. And then on May 4th, I just delivered boy-girl twins for Daniel and Ricardo Santiago. And so that's why I did it, is we wanted to bless everybody else. And so it's just kind of, it's an amazing ride. My intended fathers came to as many appointments as they possibly could. Since the distance was a little bit farther, they weren't able to be there every time, but I always made sure that I sent them pictures, updates, the scans. They were able to talk to the doctors, and you know, so I tried to make them as, with the distance as being so far away, as I tried to have them involved as much as they possibly could with all of the appointments. And since I had such great journeys, I then decided that I wanted to help somebody going through the journey for myself. So now I am also a coordinator with Simple Surrogacy. So I help surrogates through this process of the process, and you know, tell them what the next steps would be, and help them develop a better relationship with their fathers and all of that stuff. I still keep in contact with the first dad that I carried forward. The twins will be 2 on July 22nd. And I am still in contact with the other, Daniel and Ricardo. They send me updates every other day, pictures of the babies every other day, and you know, I'm looking forward to what the next several years will bring between all of the families that I've helped create.
I'm Jessica. I was led to surrogacy by a family member who struggled with infertility. I offered, after about 4 years of seeing her and her husband struggle, I offered to care for her. And we were discussing it. About 6 months into the discussion, she became pregnant. And she was able to have one of her own. So I just put it aside and said, okay, maybe this wasn't for me. And fast forward a couple years, I had a friend who did surrogacy. And I just kind of talked to her about it and started researching it. So I contacted like 5 agencies and just didn't know if I clicked with any of the ones that I had contacted. And then I found one in California called Growing Generations, and I really liked them. And so I put my application in. It was about, I guess, a month later I screened, and I was sent a profile after I passed screening. And the profile I got was from a gentleman from Australia. I just really didn't click. Like, I didn't feel moved by his profile. And so I asked for another. And they sent me Mario's profile. He's a physician in Houston. And I had butterflies. It was really weird. I was like, okay, so I think this is the one. I think this is the guy that I needed help. So we finally meet, and I find out that this had been a 6-year process for him. He had 2 surrogates before me and several egg donors, and none of them panned out. So we transferred, and both babies stuck around, and I delivered his twins October 2012. About 5 months later, he contacted me. He was like, I think I'm ready again. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, let's do this again. I was like, okay. So we got the ball going, and the twins were almost a year when we transferred 2 more embryos. And the baby sister was born in May of 2014 on Mother's Day. So she just turned 2. Yeah. So it was a great experience. We are still very close. Actually, just went strawberry picking with them back in April. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us those insights. So, as a sociologist, one of the questions that I see the U.S. population, right, people in the U.S. are often interested in. So, I'm interested in family formation, and especially alternative routes to family formation. And when studying surrogacy, what I found was people are always interested in motivations. They're interested in the motivations of surrogates themselves, you know, why surrogates are interested in becoming surrogates. What I found in my research, and I think I'd like to ask the surrogates here on the panel, but what I think was reinforced from the stories that I just heard was many of the women that I interviewed had first some personal experience with infertility, whether it was they themselves, or if it was a family member or a friend or someone in the workplace. That they began to understand the difficulties those who have infertility or who are unable to have children themselves biologically experience. And so they develop an empathy for that and begin to research the surrogacy process. So I just wanted to ask, actually, if it's okay to divulge me, if that actually, if the surrogates here on the panel, is that your understanding as well, that many of us, that you yourselves, maybe and many of the surrogates that you know, that's a motivation that brings many women to surrogacy?
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Okay, great. And I'd like to ask the parents on the panel as well. I often hear, so my first book was on international adoption, and the second one is on surrogacy. And the parents that I interviewed for both of those books often say to me, the questions that I often get is, why did you choose that particular route, right? And so for gay men, right, that answer is a little bit more knowable to people, right, about why gay men choose surrogacy. But there are other routes to parenthood for gay men. There's adoption, both domestic and international adoption, and there's also co-parenting with women. So I was wondering, for our parents on the panel, if you get those questions about why you chose this particular route to parenthood, or if you could speak to that about why, maybe if you don't get those questions, about maybe the question for me, why this particular route to becoming parents?
So the one thing I will say is that we get all kinds of questions.
Yes.
Just total strangers asking us about our sperm. and I mean, just feeling like it's okay. And you know, we just kind of awkwardly say, well, we don't really talk about that. And so yeah, why did you choose surrogacy? Why didn't you do adoption? We actually had some people talk to us like we were going to a breeder instead of to a pet store or something. That's how they talk to us. And you know, for us, we just very quickly became comfortable with saying that's what felt right. We looked at all kinds of options. We looked at fostering. We looked at adoption, and then we were talking to the agency. And you know, when we met Jessica, we didn't know for sure, but like she said, it just we knew that it was going to be right. And then you know, we went through a couple of different donors. We brought one in to screen, and Dr. Kaufman said, he said, you could choose her, but I don't recommend it. And we took his advice, and then we had a second donor, and she was like 38 eggs or something on the retrieval. And we just knew it was all right. It just like boom, everything was going to be right. But, yeah, really, anything is fair game when they see the two dads with the kids. Every question is fair game.
No, I can relate. Sorry, I can definitely relate to that. No, for us it's just innate, I think, in the human being that you wanna see your own little you or little me, you know, like you want to see it, and if the possibility is there. Of course, we talked about adoption, we talked about foster parenting, but like we just wanted to extend our family with our genes and our DNA, and I think if the possibilities are there, then we were like, of course we're going to do it. And yeah, we definitely get like strange questions. The most number one question is from everybody is like, who is who? And we made a decision not to tell anybody. Well, we can see it, but it's like, I want to be the one who tell our kids the first, instead of like they have to hear from like the crazy uncle they never see, you know. Then it's also like, yeah, we found our donor, and we used an anonymous donor. So we went to an agency, and this again is kind of a match.com, like what you prefer, like red hair, blonde hair, brown eyes, green eyes, like you go through the entire list, and then a lot of people ask us like, how did you found that donor, that's the one, you know, and like how do you pick? Well, first you get all these dossiers with all these medical records, what are the hobbies, what are the religion, the family situation, everything. And then for us, you know, it's very, maybe also again, like the name was sort of like, okay, what if you would be straight, what kind of woman would you be attracted to? And it sounds very odd, but like that's how we thought, like, yeah, she, like, just very simplistic, but like, what kind of woman would I be attracted if I would be straight? And we chose exactly the same woman, thank God for us, you know. And then, so the eggs were fertilized with 18 eggs, and then they were fertilized, and then they were like, we did genetic testing. And for us it was very important, because I know it's very expensive, but for us it was very, very important to, we wanted to transfer, well, first of all, because we didn't find out if they're really chromosomically incredibly healthy, and for us it was important because like we wanted to do, not that the sex was important, it was like we wanted to just have the best embryos possible, but we chose to do a boy and a girl because like when you do genetic testing you can find out if it's a boy or a girl. But what we did, why we did a boy and a girl was because what if one of the two embryos would not take? Then we knew already beforehand from which one was which, you know, that it took. So we already had a second surrogate lined up, so in the case that if the girl would not make it or the boy would not make it, we could transfer then the other one, so we still had like a boy and a girl, like twins at the same time. And also for prenatal rights, you know, we wanted to not do DNA testing after the kids were born to legalize everything that you're officially like the parent, but we could by David Cohen, incredible lawyer, we could prenatally already determine before the kids were born, like any other straight couple, that you are both legally the parents, without doing DNA testing, without going to the court, without showing to, you know, to the juristic district. To prove that you are DNA the dad, you know, and also I wanted to be the dad of Julian's DNA baby, so even like equal dadship basically. So that's where we also did boy and a girl, so we could go to the court here in Dallas, and we got prenatal rights before the kids were born. So we didn't have to go to the adoption process. Well, otherwise you have to adopt each other's kid, you know, and we didn't want to. So
one other thing that as he was talking, it reminded me, it's really surreal to be on an egg donor site, and it took us a long time we would just go through pages and pages of profiles, and we decided that we were going to use one of our DNA and then have a donor that was compatible with the other father. And everyone is convinced that Sawyer is my genetic child and Olivia is Sean's genetic child, and we don't talk about it, mostly because we don't want anybody to say who's the real dad. It's hurtful language. And so we don't talk about it, but everybody knows that whether that's, they can just tell that Sawyer looks like me and Olivia looks like him, and we just say yes. But as you're looking, just be prepared. As you're trying to pick a donor, we actually had to go get a big bottle of wine and sit down there, and you're looking at these big pictures and you're like, we didn't make it pretty big. Just be prepared, it's surreal, and once you kind of let go, then it's not so weird.
And I'd like to add from a surrogate's point of view is, I don't know if these ladies have gotten it, but I got asked several times, well, why don't the dads just adopt? And to me, I thought that was a very rude question. And my response I wanted to always say back to them is like, well, why did you have biological children? Why did you adopt? And as he was saying, is it's innate, is that people want to have their own biological child and have a mini-me running around and argue with your mini-me later on when they get older. But I just always thought that it was a very offensive question when people would ask me that, because I wouldn't go to them and go, well, why did you adopt? Why did you have a biological child?
Yeah, and I think, well, like what I learned is that even though the kids are born the day one, and you love your kids unconditionally, like from day one, but the real loving of your children is by raising your kids. And every day you start loving them more. So I can totally imagine if you adopt a kid that it's the same because you're raising your kid, right? So it's not like, oh, it's not my kid, but like every single day you get more and more attached to that child. And regardless if you adopt or it will be your own, I think that from you will be equally the same. Because the love that you have for the kid is so strong. But truly, it gets bigger and more overwhelming every day to get older. In the beginning, you're like, okay, I have to change diapers, and like, you hardly know that you're like awake and sleep, and like it's a crazy couple of months, But after they sort of like start growing and growing into little people, then you see yourself, and those are more, I think, the social behavior aspects. And you say, oh my God, I do this, and then she's doing it also, like little sides or something. So it's that social, aspect that I think in the end that's what adoption.
For myself, I have a 29-year-old brother who's a gay man, and I'm ready to be a man, but he's nowhere near ready yet to start having children. And I know by the time he is ready, I would not be in any sort of position to help him and his partner. But this is also a little bit of I didn't set out to say, okay, I want to find a gay couple to help when I met Michael and Sean. But once we met and I realized this was the journey I was going to take, it felt almost a little bit like, hey, for like one day there's going to be another woman in my position that's going to help bring my nephew or my niece into the world. And so
That's wonderful. I wonder if you two could talk about that as well. If you specifically set out to work with gay men, or how that process happened.
Okay. No, actually, when we first set out to pursue surrogacy, we were actually looking for somebody who had been in the same position as me and my husband at one point in time. But when I started my first surrogacy journey, I was a little bit older. I was like 37, so when I was delivered, I'd be 38. So it was really hard for intended mothers to match with somebody who was older, because they're thinking, oh, if I get a younger surrogate, everything's going to be fine and all of that stuff. And so I'd actually gotten a profile for a traditional couple, and I liked them, but they just had apprehension about me, about my age. And so then it was then I got sent my first intended father's profile, Michael, and I kept going back to it, and so we met like first date, and we Skyped, and our first Skype conversation was like an hour and a half, and then Tim and I decided to match with each other. And then my second journey with Daniel and Ricardo, it was totally different. I didn't look at their profile. They had heard me speak they had heard me at Men Having Babies in 2014, and they had come to our mixer in 2014, and I actually spoke with them there, and they liked me, and so they had gone through some bumps in the road, and their surrogate at the end decided that she didn't want to move forward with them. And I was still dipping my toes back as, well, am I going to do a second journey? Am I not going to do a second journey? I had a really good first one. And that's when Stephanie, the agency owner, contacted me, I want to say about February, March, and said, hey, you remember Daniel and Ricardo from Men Having Babies in 2014? And I said, yeah, they're really sweet guys. And I do remember when I was talking to them, and they were telling me they had a surrogate. And I was like, aw, they're very sweet, because you get a little, from a surrogate's point of view, you get addicted to this. It's to help somebody become a father. My husband's shaking his head right now. To help somebody create a family and all of that stuff. So I was like, oh, they would be really nice. And then I was disappointed that they already had a surrogate. And then Stephanie reached out to me and said that they were interested in me and was wanting to see if I was available to carry for them. And I said, well, send me their profile. I do remember them. And so 9 months later, 6 weeks ago, I just delivered their boy and girl to them. So yeah.
So Danielle, and that's something that I heard from surrogates a lot, that they got addicted to it. Could the three of you speak to that a little bit? What exactly is addicting about surrogacy?
The addicting part would be seeing the happiness and just the joy that's going to be happening to the children. It really is. It's just like, I couldn't sleep for like 24 hours after delivering the twins. And you think I'd be exhausted because they were born naturally vaginally. So I should have been exhausted. But I just couldn't sleep. It was just like this natural high from just seeing how happy their father was.
And well, same with her, but then also too is when they're sending you updates of the babies, and they had their first doctor's appointment, or for my first set of surrogate twins, they're now walking and talking, and they're still sharing all of the first with us, and you're like, I helped that they get to experience the first just like me and my husband did, and also we're multiple parents and everything like that. And so we gave advice of, everybody kept saying to them and being negative towards them about like, well, how are you going to do it? It's 2 babies at once. And our advice to everybody is, you don't know any difference. This is your normal. Your normal is feeding 2 babies, diapering 2 babies, all of that. So if you start off with twins, that's your normal. You will not know anything else. And then when you have a single one, then you're like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about. Yeah.
So I think we have such a unique opportunity here to have both surrogates and parents and talking them together. So I wanted to bring up one issue that I really think is at the heart of this relationship, and that's trust. And I was wondering if you could speak to that issue a little bit, how you developed trust, both with your intended parents and with the surrogate.
Look, that you better play.
I'd like to kick this off.
Well, so it's weird. I mean, we're total strangers going to have our babies inside of her, and we had to get comfortable just with the way that the whole thing was going to happen. One of the things that Sean and I did, we kind of set in our mind that the compensation for the surrogate for Jessica was going to let her stay at home with her child, kind of like a 9-month job, because Bertie was just over a year. And so that let her stay at home. And so, I mean, even the whole, the payment went through an agency, so we didn't ever have to, it was never weird like that, but you still think about it. So the first thing was having an agency who kind of took care of anything technical about money, and then a good contract, and, I don't know how, 80 days of contract or something. I mean, it specifies what you will and won't do, and then we felt like we were in it together. I remember when we were getting ready to transfer, there was a big ice storm on December 26th, and we were using Fort Worth Fertility, and Jessica lived in Garland, and we lived in Coppell, and she needed medicine that wasn't going to be delivered. So we got in our car and drove to Fort Worth and got the medicine and showed up at Jessica's house because we just wanted it to happen. And we all just got in that mode, where we knew that we were working on it together. And there was never, I don't think there was ever a trust. If the contract says you're not going to eat shellfish or whatever, we never had a question that Jessica would do anything different. But you also have to be prepared, like the contract says in there what's going to happen if something would have happened to her. And but that was really uncomfortable. But you know, you just.
And also, what happens if, for example, like you know, the surrogate is pregnant and you guys get into a car accident, and then what happens to the kids? You know, like there's not nice things to think about, but those things need to be set in the contract. Therefore, the contracts are like this thick, and every point that you would think, oh, I would never think of, it's in the contract. You know, like every little line, and therefore contracts are very important because also what you just mentioned is that. I didn't want to have discussion about money, I didn't want to, but that would inflict the relationship a little bit, you know, you would think, if she would call you like, I need $15.95 from like my prenatal vitamins, and like, you don't want to have that relationship with your surrogate, so it's important that you have that separate, and that somebody, or either a lawyer or an agency takes care of that stuff, so you can just purely focus on that human aspect of like, carrying the babies for you, you know, and that was also very important. That was completely separate.
And I'll just agree with that also. For me, this was going to be a spiritual, emotional journey. I didn't really want to think about the transactional nature of it, but it was comforting to read through every line of the contract and see that things that I was obviously taking on some physical risks. I knew that there was potential that things might not work out. I might not be able to grow my family anymore. I'd be done. And so I went into it with the idea, my first surrogacy, I had a boy, I had a girl, it's perfect, I'm done. I've got my Michael, my Coralie, and if something happens, and this is the way it's meant to be, and I'm content with that. And then I had Bertie before I had Michael and Sean's, Olivia and Sawyer, sorry. And it was comforting to know, okay, well, they care enough to make sure that I am taken care of if something were to happen. And that they're invested in this just like I'm invested in them. And regarding trust, I felt like most of the risk beyond the physical was on their end, so I went into it with an open heart. I wasn't expecting to be taken advantage of. I wasn't expecting to be abused. I was expecting to grow and love them the way that I already love their children, and I was growing to love them too. It's funny, I've been asked this a ton of times and nobody's brought it up yet, but I'm always asked, does it feel like your child? Was it hard giving them up? Are you good? And I would say that I always knew they weren't my children. It didn't feel, I had 3 children before them. They didn't feel like they were mine, but they felt like mine the way I feel like I'll feel when my brothers have their children. I'm Lisa, and I'm very, I mourned almost a little bit when I didn't see them as often because I miss them. I want to know what's going on, and Facebook is wonderful for that now. It really is. I get to see all kinds of little cute things. My oldest, Isabella and Andrew, my oldest are babies. They are 6 years old now. They're old enough to be talking to me. We call on the phone, and Isabella asked for me. I got to visit with them a few months ago. They came back into Dallas. They live in Lubbock, so I don't get to see them all the time. I would say that relationship was a little bit more difficult for me because in that relationship I was a mother. And I knew in my heart that she was happy and grateful for what I was doing, but there was an element of sadness, maybe because she wasn't able to feel them grow the way that a woman expects to be able to. And so it was always just a little bit of hesitancy about, oh, this is a really cool experience. I want to talk to her about it, but I don't want to say too much to make her feel bad. It was kind of a weird. I never had that with Michael and Sean. I could tell them absolutely, and they did, and they loved hearing it. And yeah, it was great. I kind of lost track of where I was going. I kind of felt like it was important at the time.
Danielle and Jessica, do you have anything to add on that issue of trust?
Well, I mean, for me, my second journey, my intended fathers had been through so much until they had gotten to me. So with the first journey, it was me and my first intended father were text messaging every single day. He was sending me pictures, went to work, all this stuff. Now my second journey, they had been through a lot until they finally got to me. So for the first couple months, they were very apprehensive, kind of a little standoffish. I would hear from them about like Alexa Peak and all of that because it was, they were just waiting for, well, what, something else is going to go wrong. And so our relationship really started to really develop, as I want to say, is after I was medically screened, and after the transfer. And then they had given me their cell phone numbers. I had had them a while, and then they gave me their cell phone numbers, and then we were really texting back and forth with each other through the pregnancy. And and to help with the trust issues, like they didn't, they had already been through so much, so they were still very, very apprehensive. But I would, like the first kicks or whatever, I sent them a text message and been like, oh, the babies are kicking for the first time, and I let them know that. And I would try to take videos of my belly moving. And I remember when we went to the heartbeat confirmation ultrasound and watching them, looking for the reaction on their face when they found out that they were having twins. And I had been through this, and I knew the excitement and the joy that I had when we found out we were having triplets. And I just watched them when Dr. Goldstein was confirming, hey, it was successful, and hey, it was 2. So it's just watching that. It takes a while, and it took us a while to actually come out and tell other people that they were using a surrogate. And I think as they finally told everybody when I was 36 weeks.
So for me, I feel like the trust is the parents that build trust the surrogate. When I met my intended father, we had to fly to California. He lived in Houston and I'm a College Station. We had to fly to California and meet at our agency. It's just the way they did things. And so when we sat down for lunch, I was like, okay, you have to be able to trust me. Are there things you don't want me to eat? Because I will, he's from Syria, and I wanted to make sure I was respectful of what his culture was. So he's like, no. He's like, you can eat what you want. You've been through this 5 times already. I can trust you to make these decisions. So he was very trusting from the get-go, even though it's been a 6-year process for him. So I was quite amazed at how trusting he was.
That is important. Jessica, having been a surrogate before and having 3 of her own kids, it was a big deal for us because when she said something was good or something was bad, it was like, yep, she knows. There was no question. That really made a big difference.
Experience is like the most important thing I think in a surrogate, that she already been through this. And our surrogate has 3 boys of her own, and then she did this already before, also carried twins. So nothing is new to them. Like they know, and they like to. Our surrogate like to be pregnant. She likes it. It's just like it's also like they love that feeling of being pregnant. And she enjoyed it. She enjoyed being pregnant, and just every little detail, like they said, the caking part, she make videos and send across, and like everything. And also the first heartbeat, I'm from the Netherlands, and my parents go in for the first sonogram heartbeat. So, and then you're all in that little room, and then then all these strangers for her are all like Judith's family members came, and we were like, I don't know, like 3 people in one tiny room, and she was okay with that. So we were lucky. It's like. But that experience in service here for sure.
And having interviewed quite a few surrogates, that became very clear to me as well, that not all women like being pregnant, and not all women like giving birth, but surrogates do. Surrogates love being pregnant. They, by and large, I think are very skilled at being pregnant. Not all women are skilled at being pregnant, but good surrogates from reputable agencies are very skilled at doing this, skilled at giving birth. But the most important thing is that they don't want to children. Right? They want to be pregnant and experience pregnancy, but they don't want any more kids. They already have kids of their own. And I think that's an essential thing for intended parents, prospective intended parents to know about the surrogacy journey. So we're almost finished, but we have a little bit of time, so I wanted to open up the floor and see if anyone might have any questions. Yes, sir.
How was the surrogates, how was the relationship with your spouse?
Do you want to talk to the spouse?
Well,
he's right here.
Like, how was it? I mean, because that's a little hard for a straight man to be kind of dealing with another spouse having children for
deal. Danielle had, I believe was it Michael that gave you a hard time when you found out that I worked in the oil field?
He was very apprehensive a little bit about you being in the oil field because I had 4 small children at home that I was dealing with, and then being pregnant with his twins and all of that.
And I'm gone 2 weeks at a time, home for a week. She's doing it all by herself, plus being pregnant, and she's a saint, basically. But as far as I think it's typically the stereotype when people find out what the husband does is a hard one, like military, or construction, oil fields, whatever. There's a lot of stereotypes that go around as far as that aspect is concerned. But you have to kind of judge that off of the surrogate herself. If she is doing it for love, or doing it because she's addicted to it, but you have to judge on what kind of man she would pick to be with, and I think that has a lot to do with it also. I have not met any husbands that would be against it, because honestly, the husbands have to sign the contract too. And if they weren't okay with it, they wouldn't sign. So that's a very big part of it, right? And what else was I going to say?
I mean, I was his pregnant wife, so he was taking care of me as he took care of me with my 2 pregnancies, with our children and all of that stuff.
Yeah, she just didn't like to change kitty litter. Pregnant women can't change kitty litter, so that's what.
I mean, and also too is he didn't come into, he was not in the both times he was not in the OR with me, because he didn't want to take that to see his children. He did not want to take away from the intended fathers them seeing their children for the first time. And even though he's my support, he did not want to take away what his first of seeing his children first born.
Yeah, I was a pack mule for your bag, everything you need in your hospital room. But no, she give them a chance to be in there. I didn't want to be in there. She had all C-sections because of our triplets. It started then, so she had to have C-sections from then on. And I didn't want to see over that curve. That's not what I want to see. And so, but I was there for her, and also too for both journeys for the fathers, how to set up car seats and the little things. With Michael, I literally had to sit him down and put food in front of his face because he would not eat. He was so all over the place, and he wasn't eating. I went through the exact same thing. I didn't eat for 3 days and didn't even realize it with triplets. Didn't even realize it, and I recognized that when he was bouncing off the walls. I saw myself then. And so, I got him chicken nuggets or something, and made him eat, and helped him with car seats, and just helped him out whenever he had questions. Swaddling, well, now they say you can't swaddle. Anyway, you're going to get into all that too, guys. All the what you can and can't do. It's it's going back and forth the last 50 years about 5 times of everything. It's just like eggs. Eggs are bad for you. Eggs are good for you. No, it's just whatever you decide. But yeah, I don't know of any of the husbands that are coarse at all with any of the fathers or anything. But as far as the gay versus straight thing, I've heard, I don't know for sure, but I've heard that intended mothers can be a real pain. I've heard that for the surrogate with what, how much did you eat today? What did you have? How many grams or what, it's just, it gets unreal. But if you as the father can just trust the surrogate to do what she knows how to do. I mean, this is basically, it's their job. Let them do their job. And that's basically it. And the spouse is there to help out whenever needed, right? I mean, when she is, I better not say that.
my research, I actually devote a whole chapter to the family members of surrogates, because I was blown away by the amount of support and work husbands, partners, mothers-in-laws, adult children give to their surrogates. It really is a family. It's not just her job. It really is a family job, and the family is invested in. And good surrogates that go through a good process will be asked, "What is your support system?"
Yeah, and it's definitely a hard decision. Just just don't be caught up in the profiling or anything as far as what they do, how they're going to act, where they're from. I've heard it all. I'm a oil man from Texas. Stereotypes abound, right? And so it's every man's different. Every man is different, and you just gotta get a feel for what you're wanting, right? But 99% of the men out there are just there to help. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we're actually out of time, but perhaps if I might be able to speak for our panelists, I think they might be around today.
Yeah.
And if you might have any other questions, I'm sure please approach them or any of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.